Welke positie heeft Hongarije nog in de Europese Unie? Welkom bij Uitgelicht. Goedenavond. Er zijn dit jaar 100 jaar diplomatieke betrekkingen tussen Hongarije en Nederland. Maar de laatste paar jaar is er wrijving ontstaan in die relatie. Nederland en de andere West-Europese landen maken zich zorgen om de democratie in het land en vrezen dat de bevolking steeds minder vrijheid heeft. In de studio András Kocsis, de huidige ambassadeur van Hongarije in Nederland. Mr. Ambassador, welcome. You have been an ambassador in Holland since 2016. How is Holland?
Good evening. Beautiful.
Hello.
I love your country.
Yeah.
I love to serve here as a Hungarian ambassador.
Yeah. Did you have a specific reason that you came to Holland?
Well, I used to be deputy ambassador before for 3 years, and I learned the language. Mm-hmm. So I think that was also an important factor. So I knew the country. So that was one of the reasons that I got this posting again.
Right. And if you have to name one thing that you like the most about the Netherlands, what would this be?
Well, then I would say pofetjes. That's one of my favorites. And of course, during winter, I love volleyball very much as well. So it's in the winter it's difficult.
It's all about food with you.
Yeah, I mean yes.
Yeah, this year marks the 100th anniversary of diplomatic relationship between Hungary and the Netherlands. What is the most important thing, and why did it start?
Yeah, it started, back in 1919, just after the end of the First World War, when my very first predecessor presented his credentials to the then Dutch Foreign Minister Jonker van Karnebeek, and we celebrate this from late last year with various events. The very first one was in October last year when Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó visited the Netherlands, and together with the Dutch Foreign Minister Mr. Stef Blok, they inaugurated the renovated embassy building, and of course they also had bilateral talks.
Right. How would you describe the relationship between the Netherlands and Hungary?
First of all, we are friends and allies, both in the European Union and in NATO. So I think that's a very important bond, a bond which has been forged, in the last couple of centuries. So not only in the last 1 century since the establishment of the official diplomatic relations, but way before that.
Yes. What would you describe as the biggest challenge that Hungary has?
In general, you mean?
Yes.
I think the biggest challenge is to explain our position, because of
you
course...
mean explain your position to your people or to the rest of the world?
No, to the rest of the world, especially here in Western Europe, I suppose, but also in the northern part of Europe as well, because in many cases there are misunderstandings and even outright lies in the mainstream media.
What kind of lies are you talking about?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, about the rampant anti-Semitism in our country, and about the anti-Semitic government, or about the anti-Semit Prime Minister Orbán, which of course is not true, because we have a very robust zero tolerance policy towards anti-Semitism.
Is there anti-Semitism in your country?
Well, I mean, there are idiots everywhere. You cannot deny that. But the government is very strong on punishing them. We have a very strong penal code which punishes hate crimes. And
do you see a rise or a decrease in the level of anti-Semitism in your country?
Definitely a decrease.
A decrease.
A decrease. For instance, our Jewish compatriots can walk freely in their kippas in Budapest. In Budapest, we have the biggest synagogue in Europe, the 3rd biggest in Szeged. We have a very active Jewish community. As a matter of fact, the Jewry in Hungary is inseparable part of the Hungarian nation. It has been established in our fundamental law, and they are actually living a so-called Jewish Renaissance in Hungary.
Right.
And it's not me who says that, but for instance, Prime Minister Netanyahu also acknowledged that.
Right. You were talking about misunderstandings about your country. The last few years there has been also a lot of tension between Hungary and the rest of Europe because the EU sees that the recent reforms of the Hungarian constitutions are a threat to democracy. Can you share your point of view with this?
The vast majority of these issues have already been discussed with our European partners, mainly with the European Commission, but also with the Venice Commission. And there were, of course, some cases with which we had to go to the European Court of Justice. But at the end of the day, we have respected every decision of the court. And of course, these issues that you mentioned and these issues that are still mentioned in the mainstream media and by the left-wing political establishment in Europe are issues that have been solved, years ago.
Have they been solved years ago? So you say there's absolutely no problem?
No.
The allegations are not based on anything?
Absolutely. I mean, the Hungarian legal system is the most thoroughly vetted legal system in Europe. I mean, since the Orbán government came to power back in 2010, we had many issues, many consultations with our European partners. So I can confidently say that our legal system is the most vetted, most thoroughly vetted.
Yeah. So how do you explain that the majority of the European Parliament is voting, for these investigations and to continue the Article 7 procedure against your country? How can you explain, is there only an image problem or are there still things to be worked on?
No, it all boils down to our stance towards migration, because of course we don't want to have any migrants in Hungary. Instead of having migrants, we put the emphasis on trying to increase the number of the Hungarian children. So we have a massive and a robust family policy in Hungary. Right. As a matter of fact, 5% of our GDP is spent on our family policy. Yeah. So when it comes to migration, we see very strong forces in Europe that would like us to change our position, which will not happen, of course.
Do you think this is connected to each other? The fact that Europe is saying that Hungary is threatening democracy and how you are standing in the migration topic?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Why do you think so?
They are connected. They are connected because the current majority of the European Parliament wants to propose migration, of course, and they just can't accept the fact that we Hungarians do not want that. And of course, when it comes to the European Union, I also have to note that migration is in the competence of the national states, of the member states themselves. So it doesn't have, it shouldn't be a common European issue, because each and every country has the right to decide with whom they want to live together.
Now Hungary has built a fence on its border to keep the refugees out. Why this drastic decision?
It was, well, first of all, it was our obligation in accordance with the Schengen Agreement, because as you know, the Hungarian border with Serbia, for instance, is the external Schengen border of the European Union. So when we erected the fence, we protected not only Hungary, but also all the other countries behind Hungary, also the Netherlands for that matter. And back in 2015, we experienced a massive influx of illegal migrants who showed up at our borders.
But it's not only about the illegal migrants, also legal ones are refused by the Hungarian government. If we're talking, for example, about the refugees from Syria, Hungary was saying, not in our country.
If we have a closer look at the Geneva Convention, these people can't be refugees, because these people have crossed through several safe countries. So as long as when they reach the Hungarian border, they can't be refugees, because
so they should be absorbed in Italy or
in the very
Greece
first safe country.
Yeah,
in the very first safe country, because that is the main idea of the Geneva Convention.
Yes, true. But the other side is that we are a European Union, and countries like, for example, Germany said, okay, we want to show solidarity and not make that Italy and Greece are only absorbing the immigrants. We are also do our share. Why not Hungary?
We are also doing our share, of course, because the fence cost us more than 1 billion euros, and nobody is paying for that, but the Hungarian taxpayers only. So it is solidarity, and we definitely do not accept that there can only be one form of solidarity, which is the number of the so-called refugees you are willing to take in.
Right. Yesterday, a group of 60 or 70 people who wanted to cross the border of Hungary, they were stopped. It was a violent protest. What happened there?
Yeah, I mean, dozens of again, illegal migrants stormed and attacked our border. Of course, our border patrols and our policemen stopped them. So it worked out good, because they were not able to enter the territory of the European Union. Yeah. But we saw that symbolically it was on the same place than in 2015, and it's very alarming, because the figures are increasing actually.
Right. Hungary is a Christian country. The Christian values are very high. If you are closing your borders to refugees who need help, how can you connect this to the Christian value of loving your neighbor?
We are closing our borders to the illegal migrants. Once again, I want to make it clear that these people are not refugees. But when it comes to real refugees, our position is that we have to export the assistance, not import the problems. So what we are doing is that we have established 3.5 years ago the so-called Hungary Helps program, through which we financially assist local communities. We are rebuilding their homes in the Middle East, we are rebuilding their schools, their hospitals, and the aim is that these people return as soon as the security situation permits.
Right.
And of course that is in connection with their own wish, because they do not want to leave. The vast majority of them do not want to leave their birthplace or their homeland.
This program that you're mentioning, it's for Christians who are being persecuted, yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you tell me about it? Because Hungary is playing quite a role in protecting Christians that are being persecuted in the Middle East. What is Hungary doing there?
First of all, altogether we have spent in the last couple of years 35 million euros from our very own taxpayers' money to assist these communities. And before we started to do that, we realized that as a matter of fact, Christianity is the most persecuted religion in the world, which is a shame. And the shame is bigger because nobody was doing anything about it. Nobody was even talking about it. So I think Hungary was the first one to recognize this problem. As a matter of fact, 4 people out of 5 who is persecuted because of his or her religion is Christian.
So what is Hungary doing to help them?
We are rebuilding schools, hospitals, their homes. For instance, when there is a small village in northern Iraq, and it was of course conquered by Islamic State, but after they left, these people wanted to return, and with our financial assistance, approximately 2 million euros, they were able to return. We are talking about 1,000 families, and as a recognition, they even renamed their village to Tel Ashkuf, which means in Arabic, Hungary's daughter.
Right. How important is this topic to Hungary, to help Christians in the Middle East?
Yeah, very important because even our fundamental law states that we are very proud of our Judeo-Christian heritage, and we would like to protect that, of course, not only in Hungary but also in Europe. We would like to have a Hungarian Hungary and a European Europe.
Yeah. Now, according to Forbes, a well-known magazine, Hungary has a unique approach to help Christians who are persecuted. In what way is it unique?
That's correct, because
countries?
we were the first ones, to highlight this problem. But thankfully, there are more and more countries who follow us. Our American friends are big partners in this. Also, our Polish friends. Brazil is helping as well, and we try to highlight this problem and try to draw as many countries into this project, because we are convinced that it's a big problem.
What about the Netherlands? Are they also joining you?
Hopefully, yes. So we hope that we will be able to work together in a project.
And do you think that's realistic? That's something that's going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right. This year is also a special year, not only because there's an Hungarian embassy in the Netherlands, but one of the first things that happened in the cooperation between the Netherlands and Hungary was the so-called Children's Train program. Next week, that's exactly 100 years ago. What kind of program was that?
Well, right after the First World War, approximately 60,000 Hungarian children were welcomed in various countries in Western Europe. The vast majority of them, half of them, 28,000, were housed here in the Netherlands upon the initiative of Queen Wilhelmina. And up until today, we are very grateful for the Dutch hospitality. Also,
why did they have to be hosted in these
because
countries?
they were either orphaned or they were very sick after the First World War. You know, it had a very serious negative effect on every Hungarian household, of course. And
so the children came here to recover.
To recover for a couple of months, and the majority of them, of course, returned afterwards. But a couple of thousands did stay here in the Netherlands, and there are still people. I still meet people here in the Netherlands who have
their grandparents maybe were these children, right? What part did the Dutch Church? What role did they play in this operation, so to say?
A very big one, but it also, meant a slight problem because back then Hungary didn't realize that the Dutch society was still very strongly pillarized. So when the first children came, the Dutch Protestants were not really eager to welcome the Catholic
children.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
And then of course all of a sudden the Hungarian Catholics got in touch with the Dutch counterparts, and this small hiccup was resolved. But the religious communities and also the churches played a huge part in it.
They played a huge part in hosting the children at their homes, or
also, and logistically, and trying to make some PR to this program in the Dutch society. So they played a huge part.
Right. Next week is going to be the 100th anniversary of this special program. How is this milestone going to be remembered next week?
We are organizing a two-day conference in Kampen with the cooperation of the TU Kampen and the Dutch faculty of ELTE University in Budapest. And I'm very happy to see that all three Dutch faculties that operate in Hungary are one way or another involved in this project. So, and of course, we were very happy to support it financially. I myself will be there, of course, and also the Dutch ambassador in Budapest, Mr. René van Hel, will also come. So it's going to be a very nice occasion, to remember, because it's very important to us Hungarians to say our thanks to our Dutch friends once again.
Right. Last but not least, we have more history in common, because Michiel de Ruyter, he's a Dutch war hero, but he's also a Hungarian hero. Can you tell me a little bit of what happened there?
He is indeed, because Admiral de Ruyter saved 26 galley slaves from the Viceroy of Naples. As a matter of fact, only 3 months before his passing away. These galley slaves were actually Protestant priests who were not willing to give up their faith after the Counter-Reformation, And as soon as Admiral de Ruyter got the news that these were Protestant priests, they got this task from the Staten-Generaal to come and save them.
Right. How is his legacy, the legacy of Michiel de Ruyter, remembered in Hungary?
Oh, there are many statues in Hungary. One of them we visited together with the then Speaker of the Senate, Madame Ankie Broekes-Knol, in Debrecen. And of course, here in the Netherlands as well, every February we commemorate this heroic act at the Nieuwe Kerk in Amsterdam.
Thank you for your story and thank you for coming here, Ambassador.
Thank you very much.
Dit was Uitgelicht voor vandaag. Bedankt voor het kijken. Morgen zijn we er weer. Ik wens u een fijne avond. Graag tot morgen.